Hi friends, welcome to today's video. I know I look crazy, if you can't tell. Can you tell what we're talking about today? So it is highly requested. I keep getting asked for a tips and tricks for hooded eyes. So here we go. We're gonna be talking about what is a hooded eye, how can you make the hood less apparent, and we're just talking about lift and creating beautiful eye makeup that will work for all eye shapes and sizes, and no matter how much of a hood you have, and no matter how aging your eyelids are like mine. So hopefully this helps. Can you tell which side is the do and which side is the don't? I hope you can tell. So keep watching if you want to see all of my tips and tricks, and be sure to like and subscribe if you aren't already. And thank you guys so much for being here. Let's get to it. All right, friends, let's just get right into it and talk about what exactly is a hooded eye. And I'm gonna tailor this video more to like hooded eye, droopy eye, and even aging eyelids. So if you have more mature skin, because as we age, it's one of the first places that starts falling, losing collagen, and actually starting to drop. So there's a wide variety and like degree of what makes a hooded eye hooded, but pretty much if you look directly into the mirror, if you cannot see your full eyelid, you have some degree of hood. So for me, I have very aging eyelids and they're getting worse as I get older. But can you see, like you can see, you might not be able to see any of your actual lid. You might be able to see just a little bit, like you can see a little bit of mine, but if you can actually lift up, this right here is called the hood. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys kind of both what to do and what not to do. And I feel like sometimes that is easier to kind of see a visual, right? See exactly what not to do. So first thing first, always prime your lids. I always talk about that. But with hooded eyes and aging eyes, you tend to have more creasing and you tend to have more texture that could lead to creasing. So you guys know me, I never don't prime my eyelids, okay? So just a little bit, and this is gonna be my good eye. And I go all the way from lash line to brow, okay? And then I'm gonna set that, okay, with a powder. So it doesn't matter what kind of powder, anything will do. I'm just gonna take a pressed powder and I am going to then set that. So setting that primer will mean it will crease, no creasing. So if I don't do that over here, I'm not gonna do primer or setting, and more than likely throughout the day, I will have a crease right where my eyelid naturally creases because I've got one there and there's nothing you can do about it except prime it, try to avoid it from ever happening. Okay, next, let's go ahead and go up and talk about brows. So brows are so important. Okay, so when it comes to brows, don't skip on brows. There's only one thing you need to make sure you're not doing. Let's do the bad eye first. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill like I normally do. And if you don't fill your brows, you can kind of ignore this. But what I did here is I went down and I pulled the tail downward. Okay. That is my no eye. All right, so I'm just using Trust eyeshadow. I'm giving it a quick fill. I'm not gonna go too crazy, but what I did is I pulled that down. Okay, now on this eye, I'm gonna do the same thing, but instead of going down, I'm gonna go slightly out to where it's straighter. Okay, so I've got my two brows on. Can you see the difference? How this one goes out and this one goes down. Now what's happening is I'm giving myself more space between my eye and my brow where that hood is. And here I'm closing that gap. It's going to make this look droopier and more pronounced than if I would just go slightly straighter, give myself more room. What you want to think of when you have hooded eyes is what is going to bring me the most lift. So going straight out as much as you can, and you can even exaggerate it. But again, as we age, our brows actually start drooping with the rest of our face, and this area gets closed and gets lower. So naturally your brows are going to start going downward more, but you want to try to exaggerate the fact that they're going more out. Does that make sense? So keep it straighter. Don't do a big curve. Okay, that's brow. Okay, sticking with brows. Now I'm just gonna talk about highlighting under the brow. So a lot of people like to put a little bit of shimmer. That's awesome because it creates lift when you put a little bit of a highlight there underneath the brow. Now I'm gonna go in with a shade I normally don't wear that is a lot brighter. So this is Unicorn, which is a more icy white, okay, and the Multitasker. And I'm just going to go right under my brow so you guys can see this. Okay, I'm gonna go right under my brow and I'm going to keep it close to my brow. Now, I don't like a crazy bright highlight there. So this is a little much for me. But I want you guys to be able to see it on camera and see the difference it makes when you go too low. So I see a lot of people that just go like this. Okay, and they do this big wide stripe. And I know that this looks cray-cray because it's so white, but what happens as we age and on this hood here, okay, we start getting texture on this. Now, anything shimmery on this area is gonna just pronounce texture. We don't want that, okay? So also, shimmer brings light forward, okay? And this is actually gonna make your hood come out farther and look more pronounced and more puffy. Does that make sense? Whereas here, I'm just doing a little under the brow. It's lifting that brow, but it's not making my hood look more pronounced, okay? Because we're still giving space of that area, right? Okay, so now let's talk the most important thing, I think, of everything, and that is when you're doing your crease. So naturally, when you have hooded eyes, your crease is down here, okay? And let's just do that one first. I'm gonna go in with a darker shade. So I'm gonna go in with a shade that's still pretty dark, but isn't super dark. And I'm gonna go in my crease. Let me try to do with the big fluffy end of the eyeshadow, everything. And this is Lullaby. So this color does work as a crease color, but it's lighter than what I would normally suggest. And I'm going right in my natural crease of my eye. And I'm just windshield wipering that back and forth. Okay, so what happens when I open my eye? You can't see the color. Okay, now I'm gonna go in with a darker shade so you guys will be able to see it. This is Oak. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm going to open my eye, okay, and I'm gonna place that color right above my natural crease. Okay, I am going on the hood and I'm creating myself a new crease above the hood, okay? And I'm going in little at a time so I can deepen that color. And I'm going in with a pretty dark shade. So you want to be able to pick a shade that's dark enough that you are creating depth, okay? So too light of shades, just like with the highlight, lighter colors will be brought forward, darker colors recede. So by putting this darker shade on my hood, it's actually gonna make that hood recede. Does that make sense? I feel like I keep asking if that makes sense. Like you guys are responding. Let me know in the comments if that makes sense. So, can you see how you can see the color? And I can keep building this up until it is as dark as I want. And the darker you go, the more that hood is gonna recede. Okay, and looks very different, right? So another thing to mention, I'm gonna just go in with this side and say, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go with a dark color on my hood this time. But let's say I pick a color like Fin. It's dark, but it's got shimmer in it. And I'm gonna show you guys what that looks like. Hopefully it'll translate on camera. Okay, so this is about as dark as oak, but it's got gold shimmer. Can you see the difference in how much texture? Because let's be real, I got a lot of texture in that area. And see how, I don't know if you can tell from farther away, how much, I mean, yes, I still have texture over here, but mattes aren't gonna intensify it as much as a shimmer does. Shimmer will reflect that light and you will see every little crease in your eyelid. So don't go in with shimmers as your, trying to blend this out, as your crease color, okay? Stick with mattes. I always recommend mid-tone matte brown, but feel free to go a little bit darker if you have hooded eyes. Just slowly build up that color. See, like that is a pretty dark shade for me, but it is not super dark, right? Also, when it comes to then doing a lid shade, okay? So the one place I kind of stick with shimmers is on my lid and in that inner corner where I don't have as much texture. So I'm just gonna grab, you know what? I'm gonna stick with Unicorn. This might be a crazy eye look, but I want you guys to be able to see it on camera. So I'm gonna go in with Unicorn right there on that inner corner. Okay, it's gonna brighten and it's going to help lift that eye. It's gonna make it look bigger, okay? And I'm also gonna take it all the way down to that tear duct, okay? So inner corner, and if you've watched my videos before, you know I always do my makeup this way because this is what works for hooded eyes and aging eyes, okay? So brighten that tear duct, it's gonna open up your eyes. Okay, what you don't wanna do is use dark shades all over the lid, okay? Let's go in with something, I'm in the purple family over here. I'm gonna go in with Amethyst, and I'm gonna put it all over this side, just on the lid. My gosh, I need to blend this bad boy out. Okay, and do you see how closed that makes my eye look? Now, this is a look you can do. I occasionally will wear a darker shade on my lid, but I will kind of adjust other things about my eye makeup to make it not look so closed off, okay? So normally, like you can see a small sliver of my lid between my lashes because I don't have a completely hooded eye, but I do still have a hooded eye. So, can't tell the difference. Am I looking crazy yet? All right, so all over dark color on the lid, I don't recommend. Now, when it comes to placing that darker color, I am all for that outer corner depth, okay? And what that does is it creates lift and depth in the eye, which you do want when you're doing a hooded eye look. So I'm just gonna grab, let's see, Philly, which is a warm matte brown. I also recommend sticking with matte shades in the outer corner. I occasionally use colors that have a tiny bit of shimmer, like Kin, but nothing too shimmery because that does have texture in that area. And then this is the blend and tap, which is like the easiest brush to ever do outer corners. and I'm just going to tap, 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 and I'm gonna go slightly into the crease just to kind of V it out, okay? And I'm gonna create that outer corner depth, which is gonna make my eyes look bigger. And that dark shade there helps lift the eye, okay? So remember to note, you always want to keep your eye makeup going from, let's see, corner of the nose, corner of the eye, into the brow, okay? And you want to keep it along that line. So you want to keep that lifted in order to create lift to the eye. Now when you, let's say I'm going to do the same thing over here, but I'm going to go too low. Let's see if you can see this. Okay, if you go too low and you get outside of that corner, ooh, I went a little cray cray. Okay, first of all, it looks a little funny. I'm trying to make this as realistic as possible, guys. Okay, so I got a little far out. Okay, what it does is it creates your eyes to droop and fall, okay? Even if I connected this down here so it was still connected, if it's too far down, okay, it's gonna make this hood look more droopy, okay? And we're wanting to lift that hood. We're wanting this to go up and recede, okay? Be less obvious. There's nothing wrong with hooded eyes. They're beautiful, and most people have some degree of hood, so it is not rare. Actually, it is the normality. Is that the word I'm looking for? Just completely normal. We are already on to, let's go ahead and do the lower lash line before we do liner. So one thing with, I feel like I'm doing all dark over here, but it's like all the things you don't want to do are usually too dark. So one thing, let's use the same shade we did on the outer corner. I'm going to use Philly, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that color and I'm going to go all the way under my eye. Okay. So I always halo under my eye, right? But I never go all the way to the inner corner, okay? That's another thing that will close off your eye. And I just feel like it looks odd when you go all the way in, but maybe it's because I don't do that. Oh my gosh, I look so crazy over here. Okay, let's go in with, you know what? I'm gonna use the same color I did over here, but I'm gonna show you the difference. And I'm just going to halo, and I'm gonna stop about mid through my eye. Okay, so I always halo, but you want to keep that inside corner light and bright. So we already kind of did right there, but now I'm going to go a little farther over. So this part is light and then it goes to dark. You see the difference even if I take some of this off. I feel like a raccoon eye over here. So, okay. So do not line all the way across. Even if you're doing a liner, stop about right here, kind of smudge it out so it goes in no more than halfway along that bottom lash line. Now let's talk liner. So, biggest thing about liner, do not take a liner and do it thick. So let me see if I can do this on camera. Oh my gosh, it's really hard for me to make a thick enough line. But what you want to do is you want to make sure your liner is thin. And the reason for that is that if you do your liner thick enough to where it takes away any of the lid that's showing and all you can see when your eyes are open is liner, it is making your eyes look more hooded. So either line it very thinly, okay, so that when your eyes are still open, you can still see some of that highlight on the lid, okay? So you can still see some lid. If it's so thick that you can't see any lid, again, it closes your eyes. We're wanting to create lift. So some people, what about wing liner? I like to do just a small wing. If you like to do a large wing, let's just show you. Okay, I don't know if you can see it because I've got such darkness. When you do a very large wing and you have hooded eyes, sometimes your wing goes under your hood and that does not look pretty. Like, it makes your hood even more pronounced because you can't even see where your wing stops. So I like to do a slight wing because that gives, again, lift to the corner of the eye. So bottom liner, I like to stick with the outer corner, okay, and smudge it out. I also sometimes do a waterline liner, but just look at how closed off your eye will look if you line all the way in. Okay, now this can be a really pretty look depending on the rest of your eye makeup. So if you want to do it still, it does create contrast between your whites of your eyes and the black of the liner. But I wouldn't recommend going all the way into that inner corner, okay? That will close off your eyes. And I always recommend, if you're gonna do that, to smudge a little underneath the lash line as well. Otherwise it looks disjointed. So keep that outer side smoky. And it does close your eyes off a little bit anytime you do a waterline. Just be warned of that. But it can be such a pretty look. It really intensifies your eyes. The last thing is lashes. So I can't really show you because I have my Lashify on. But the biggest thing with lashes is you want to make sure, if you have natural lashes, that's, you know, that is fine. Definitely really use mascara. The more you curl your lashes and use mascara, it's going to open up your eyes because your lashes will give lift. If you are a falsie girl, choose lash types that aren't super thick in the middle and that kind of fan out. If they're really heavy in the middle, it's going to close off that space on your lid and it's going to make your eyes look smaller. If you noticed, I always kind of wing my lashes, and the reason for that is because, again, it gives me that cat eye, it gives me that lift in the outside corner when you have more density in that outside corner, right? So you can even kind of falsify that with mascara and pull your mascara and really accentuate those lashes on that outside corner, and it's gonna help give that look. Bottom lash mascara is a personal preference. I feel like it rounds out your look, especially if you have a liner on the bottom. Okay, last but certainly not least, I always do your eye makeup first. That way you can clean up the edges if necessary, clean up any fallout if you need to. If you do get too low or too far over, that is the beauty of creams, right? You can just go in with your makeup and you can pull, create that lift, and make sure you're not getting too far over from your brows. And I love even being able to go in with my brush and kind of slightly tap right there on that outer corner to keep it all blended, and you never have that harsh unblended line at the side. Okay, that is my do's and don'ts. I hope you guys were able to visualize what I mean. I mean, yeah, this has got kind of like a smoky effect, but I promise you up close, it's not pretty, does not look good. And I hope this video helped you. All right, friends, those are all of my tips and tricks for hooded eyes, how to make your eyes look lifted and bigger, and how to make that hood recede and how to make your eyes look gorgeous for the day-to-day. So hopefully that helped. Please let me know if there are any questions I can answer for you. And thank you guys so much for watching. Love y'all. Bye.